Rejection, a very, very painful wound. We've all been rejected, and it hurts. It hurts very deeply. Our hearts are wounded, and rejection changes us. When I was a young boy, I enjoyed playing sports, as boys often do. You played basketball, football, baseball. I just loved playing games and playing sports. But as a boy, for a number of reasons, didn't have the coordination that it seemed like the rest of the boys had. I couldn't run super fast. I couldn't throw a ball as far as most of them. They were all pretty much the same size, but there were just certain handicaps that I had. That just throwing a basketball, I never could seem to get a hang of doing that, putting a spin on a ball, or all of those things were hindrances to me. But it didn't stop my zeal for playing, because I enjoyed playing and being outside and doing those things. In grade school, every day, the lunch hour in particular, which was the longest recess period, was usually involving a game of some sort with the guys. And so teams were always chosen for each side. A captain would pick whoever would be on each team. And so they would always pick those who would benefit the most, that would ensure a win. And I was always the very, very last one to be picked. And understandably, looking back, of course, they wouldn't pick someone who wasn't their best player. But this was every day. Every day I knew I would be the very last one to be picked. Of course, that wrote things on my heart and my mind about what I thought about myself and who I was. Everyone has stories like that. You might think that most popular person, that they've got it all together, but everybody is hiding their rejection. The most beautiful people in the world, you read stories how they don't like their ears, they don't like their nose, they feel they're not good enough in one way or another. Rejection just runs deeply in every single person. There isn't anyone out there who has not been rejected. Your parents, who maybe are rejecting you, they've been rejected. And usually out of our rejection, we reject others. If you look at bullies, they're probably some of the most deeply rejected people. They get angry over this, resent the rejection, and they take it out on weaker people that they consider weaker than them, and they'll just cast them down, crush them with terrible words. But they're often the most rejected people. You've been rejected. Maybe you're not included. People don't want you to sit with them. You feel like you're standing alone, almost invisible. It's just a terribly sad and lonely place to be, because when we're not invited in, and who hasn't experienced not being invited to something, a party, an event, something is happening and you're left out. Nobody calls you. Nobody says, come on, we want you to be there. Can you come? And I've been rejected in many ways. I've been fired twice. I had another handicap of a learning disability, which I eventually grew out of, but it just left me with all the smirks and other kids and people, teachers even, who just, made me feel like I was less than, wasn't good enough. And all of these things left a mark on me. When we're rejected, it changes us. We are not the same after rejection. And it just hangs on you. You can push it down, push it away. But just look, when you get someone comments on a post of yours and it's less than encouraging, or it puts you down in even a slight way, you just can't even get away from it. It just keeps going through your mind over and over and over again. And it just frustrates you. It just, you try to get rid of it, push that out, but it just plagues. Some people can, those kind of little events, a momentary event, a momentary smirk, some comment at work or at school or wherever, and you're thinking about it for 2-3 days later. And why is that? It's because it taps into lots of other rejection experiences that you have that have never been healed. We're going to be heading towards getting some freedom from, getting some help with that terrible gut level feeling of being rejected, of not being wanted, not being included, not being welcomed. And I have a series of these short videos that will just bring us closer to a place where I will begin to explain to you how you can get free and get your life back and not be dependent on what people think about you, because that becomes the huge worry, the whole social anxiety that people talk about. We're afraid to go out in public. People that have been rejected a lot. There was a lady that we've been doing prayer ministry with people, bringing healing to them, freedom to them for about 25 years. So I come with a lot of experience. And that's why listening and following this will help you. But we had a lady that came, and I would say 60, 70, 80% of the people that come have been rejected in some kind of way, and their life has been changed. And this lady came, and as a young girl, this story came out, and her mom and dad, didn't get along very well, lots of fights, and her mom didn't want to have intimate relations with her husband, and she pushed her, this young girl, and gave her to her husband, said he'd do it with her. And so he began sexually molesting her from very, very young on, very, very often. And you can imagine your own father doing this to you, the demeaning, the loss of trust, all of those things that start to happen. And then she's just crying out and saying, "Mom, why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep, putting me through that?" And getting no support, no protection. And it's just kind of pushing her further and further down. Can you imagine? And at school one day, in a moment of frustration, she let it out with a teacher that these things were happening to her. Well, word got back to the father, who just exploded with anger and denied it all, of course, to the people that talked to him. And he was going to teach her a lesson. You are never, ever going to talk about this to anyone. He said, "Come with me," and they headed out to their backyard woods. Made her carry a shovel all the way. Got to the woods and told her to dig a hole. She said, "Why am I digging?" But he was an angry man. He was very angry. So she starts digging this hole. A long time digging this hole, and after it's shallow, she's couldn't dig it super deep, but she got a grave basically dug. He said, "Get in." And he began shoveling the dirt upon her. And he said, "I will complete this if you ever talk again. I don't ever want to hear that, or you will be buried permanently." And she knew what that meant, of course. And he left. angrily, and she was so scared. Can I even go back home? But the terrible rejection, the dignifying of indignation of who she was. I mean, just completely pushing her down. Very traumatic. That woman is free of that experience. She can hold her head up high today. Can you? Do you want to? Do you want to see yourself as beautiful, handsome, wonderful, wanted? So many people live with this feeling they're not wanted. And sometimes that comes deep, deep down from very, very early rejection experiences. There's an answer for that. There's change that could happen to you that would bring you back to loving yourself. How many of us think, what's wrong with me? I'm not a good person. I'm hated. I'm reviled. I know I began to believe things like that. We call those things lies. They're lies because they're not really true. Because of what someone has said or done to you does not mean that you're a bad person. They're the bad person. This woman's father was the bad person. Her mother was the bad parents. Terrible parenting. I've made mistakes as a father. I've demeaned my children at times. I've had to ask their forgiveness. But we all do that. We all reject each other all the time, and it hurts. It changes us. We are not the same after we've experienced rejection. We pretend to be someone different than who we really are. Maybe they'll like me if I'm this way. Maybe they'll like me if I'm like them. So you change your personality. You become something very different than who you are because you want to fit in. You want to belong. Who doesn't? It's the whole thing behind gangs. They just want to feel like they belong somewhere. And everybody craves that and everybody needs that. These lies that we begin to believe about ourselves become our truth. We believe them. We believe the lies, the curses, the things that people have said to us. We believe them. And of course, behind those is the father of lies, who we call the father of lies. Jesus called him that. Because that's his main weapon against you. If he can get you believing you are less than who you are, then he has changed your entire life. He can leave because you're going to continue to cripple yourself, keep yourself down, keep yourself from becoming who you were meant to be. We all wonder, who am I? What am I to be? But rejection just cripples our ability to see ourselves shining somewhere in whatever occupation or whatever relationship or marriage. I was afraid to date because of the insecurities in me that were just built up over time. I didn't feel confident. That can change. It's changed for me, and it can change for you. And these lies that we've started to believe, just if you just closed your eyes for a moment, even right now, God would tell you what lies you believe. What lies do you believe about yourself? And there's a thought that just popped into your head. You know where that came from? It came from a loving God. He's wanting you to know you're believing something that is not true. And he wants to pull you up higher because he says, you're not the tail, you're the head. You don't deserve this. This isn't who you are. And there's a victory coming. And I encourage you to watch the next session as we move closer to how do we get free of this leftover from the rejection remarks, the curses, the bad things that have happened to us, that have pushed who we are down. It has caused us to hide who we are because we're afraid if people see the real us, they won't want to be there. So you don't miss any future sessions on this. I just invite you to subscribe so that you can get an alert, a notification that the next one has come. And we'll continue this till you are free, so that you can take a hold of who you are and say, move over, world, I'm coming through. That's in you. And God has put that in you. And I've seen hundreds and hundreds of people move out of rejection into a place of great happiness and joy and victory. Join me, subscribe. It's just a pleasure that you are here with me. You're important. And I'm only doing this because you are important. So I invite you to keep watching. Change is coming. New life is coming. Thank you for being with me today. God bless you.